In the year 2040, Earth stood at the precipice of a new age. The world had witnessed decades of innovation, but beneath the surface, lingering tensions simmered. The climate crisis had worsened. Nations were still divided over the best course of action, and the specter of war loomed in the background. Humanity's greatest achievements felt fragile, like a house of cards waiting to topple over. Then came the signal, a strange anomaly detected by observatories around the world. The signal was faint at first, just a ripple in the vastness of space, nothing to worry about, at least not yet. But then the signal grew stronger and more defined. It was clear now, something was out there, a ship far from the solar system. But moving toward it, humanity's curiosity and fear reached a boiling point. The world's leaders scrambled to respond, but there was no clear path forward. What was this ship, its origin, its intent? All questions without answers. Claire Jensen, a leading astrophysicist, was brought into the fold. The world's eyes were on her to decode the mystery of the ship. Her expertise in alien signals had earned her a spot at the forefront of humanity's most important mission. Yet Claire spent sleepless nights working with her team in a top-secret research facility, hidden deep within a mountain range. She studied the signals tirelessly, looking for any pattern, any hint of meaning. After days of intense work, Claire finally made a breakthrough. The signals were not random. They were complex and structured. They carried information not in words, but in mathematical patterns, a universal language, one that could be decoded if only they had the key. And as she cracked the code, the message was revealed. It was brief and chilling: "We come in peace, but we are not alone." The ship was not alone. The message hinted at something much larger, a galactic war that had been raging for centuries, and now Earth had become part of it. The alien species that sent the message called themselves the Etherians. They were advanced, peaceful, and seemingly benevolent, but the gravity of their words hung heavily in the air. Their arrival was not simply a greeting. It was a declaration. The war was coming, and Earth had been chosen to play a part in it. When the Etherians finally arrived, their ship hovered just beyond the moon. Their presence cast a shadow over the planet. Their technology was beyond anything humanity had ever seen. Their ship, silent and beautiful, defied the laws of physics. As Earth's satellites scanned their vessel, they could detect no weapons, no signs of aggression. Yet something about their calm demeanor felt unsettling. The world's governments could not agree on what to do next. Some saw this as an opportunity to usher in a new era. Others feared a trap. The Etherians had come with an offer to share their advanced technology and knowledge to help humanity transcend its earthly troubles. But what were they really after? What did they want from Earth and its people? The clock was ticking. The decision must be made soon, before the shadow of war reached the stars. The arrival of the Etherians sparked a wave of excitement across the globe. People were hopeful, yet there was a palpable sense of fear. Under the surface, the possibility of advanced technology to solve Earth's most pressing issues was alluring, but the cost of such a gift was unknown. World leaders convened to discuss the offer. A global summit was held in Geneva to decide humanity's future. The stakes had never been higher. Claire Jensen attended the summit, representing the scientific community. Her mind raced with questions about the Etherians' motives. What could they possibly want from Earth? Why offer such valuable technology? Now, was this truly a peaceful gesture, or was it something more sinister? The Etherians were calm. Their representatives radiated an aura of grace and wisdom. They explained that their species had been watching Earth for centuries, observing humanity's potential to rise above its own struggles, and they believed Earth was ready to join the galactic community. But their offer came with a price. The Etherians explained that to become part of the galactic concord, humanity would need to prove its worth through a trial, but the nature of this trial remained shrouded in mystery. They'd promised that it would be a chance for Earth to prove its place among the stars, but only if Earth accepted their help. If the trial failed, the consequences were not disclosed, leaving a cloud of uncertainty hanging over the summit. The decision divided the nations of Earth. On one side were those who saw the Etherians as a golden opportunity to lift humanity out of its troubles. On the other were those who were wary of being manipulated or controlled by an alien power. Many feared that accepting the Etherians' offer could lead to humanity losing its independence. They feared the unknown risks that came with making such a monumental decision, with the possibility of galactic war on the horizon. Some leaders argued that refusing the offer might make Earth a target for the Xorath, a ruthless alien race known for their conquests across the galaxy. As the debates raged on, Jensen found herself questioning the motives of the Etherians. Their technology was unlike anything she had ever studied. It could solve Earth's energy crisis, end hunger, and even reverse environmental damage. But the more she analyzed, the more she felt that there was something off about their offer. The Etherians spoke of peace and unity, but she couldn't shake the feeling that they were withholding something important. As she dug deeper into the data the Etherians had provided, her team discovered an anomaly, a faint but persistent signal buried within their transmissions. It was a faint distress call repeating every few hours. The signal was coming from deep space, and it was old, far older than the Etherians themselves. Jensen shared her findings with General Marcus Hale, who had been leading Earth's military preparation for potential conflict with the Xor'ath. Together, they began to investigate the origin of the signal. The more they uncovered, the more questions arose. What had happened to the Etherians before they arrived on Earth? Why had they come to the planet now? Was their offer truly as peaceful as it seemed, or was there something far more dangerous lying in wait? The pieces of the puzzle were starting to come together, but the truth was elusive, and the countdown to Earth's decision was running out. As the summit approached, a sense of unease settled over the planet. Humanity's future was about to be decided, but whether it would be a future of peace or one of war was still unknown. The question remained: would Earth accept the Etherians' offer or face the consequences of rejecting it? As Earth's summit reached its conclusion, the decision was still unclear. Tensions between nations grew as some embraced the Etherians' offer, while others remained cautious, fearing a hidden agenda. Yet before a consensus could be reached, the unexpected happened. The Xor'ath arrived. Their ships appeared in the sky, like shadows descending on Earth. Without warning, their advanced weaponry was visible as they entered the atmosphere, a fleet of dark vessels that seemed to radiate malice. The moment they landed, the world held its breath. This was no diplomatic mission, this was an invasion. The Xor'ath were a terrifying race, ruthless and conquerors of countless worlds. Their reputation preceded them. They had no interest in peace or diplomacy. Their demands were clear: Earth must surrender its resources and pledge allegiance to the Xor'ath Empire, or face immediate destruction. Their ships hovered over the major cities of Earth, threatening annihilation for anyone who resisted. The world was thrown into chaos. Governments scrambled to respond, but the Xor'ath's overwhelming force made Earth's defenses appear insignificant. General Marcus Hale stood at the forefront of humanity's military response. His voice echoed through command centers across the globe, urging nations to unite under one banner to fight back against the Xor'ath. The Earth Defense Coalition was formed in an emergency meeting in which military leaders from every corner of the planet put aside their differences to prepare for a war unlike any they had ever seen. Yet, even with their combined forces, the sheer size and power of the Xor'ath fleet made victory seem impossible. The Xor'ath had weapons capable of destroying entire cities in seconds, and their technology was far superior to anything humanity had developed. As humanity's leaders scrambled to prepare for the worst, Claire Jensen continued her investigation into the Etherians. She had a sinking feeling that something was wrong with their offer. The more she learned, the more she began to suspect that the Etherians were not entirely honest with Earth. The peaceful race they portrayed might not be as benevolent as they seemed. She found evidence that suggested the Etherians had been involved in galactic conflicts in the past, manipulating events for their own benefit. The trial they spoke of might not be about helping Earth at all. It could be a test to see if humanity was fit to join their own political agenda. While the world's attention was focused on the Xor'ath threat, a secret team was formed to delve deeper into the mystery of the Etherians. Jensen was joined by a small group of military strategists, scientists, and spies who began to unravel the Etherians' history. They discovered that the Etherians had been watching Earth for a long time, and they had intervened in galactic conflicts before, sometimes as allies, sometimes as enemies. Their true motives were unclear, but one thing became certain: they had come to Earth at a time when the galaxy was teetering on the brink of war. As the Xor'ath's forces advanced toward Earth, the tension between the possibility of fighting a war on two fronts became a real concern. Should humanity trust the Etherians, or should they prepare to fight on their own? The world was in turmoil with every passing hour. The stakes grew higher. Jurgensen's team was racing against time to uncover the truth behind the Etherians, while humanity's military forces braced for the coming storm. Earth had never faced a more critical moment, and the decision about how to respond could determine the future of the entire planet. The first strike from the Xorath came with devastating force. Their massive warships unleashed torrents of plasma fire upon Earth's major cities. The skies were filled with explosions as buildings crumbled, and the ground shook with the force of the bombardment. Humanity was caught off guard. Despite the preparations, the Earth Defense Coalition was ill-equipped to face such overwhelming firepower. The Xorath moved quickly and decisively. Their ships moved like predatory beasts circling their prey. Humanity's leaders watched in horror as the once thriving cities of the world were reduced to rubble. But in the midst of the destruction, a glimmer of hope emerged. Samira Ruiz, a young fighter pilot from Argentina, stood at the helm of one of Earth's few remaining starfighters. She had been a part of the first wave of defense, and when the Xorath attacked, her squadron was sent to intercept their warships. Samira had never experienced anything like the brutal power of the Xorath fleet, but her determination and courage drove her forward. As her squadron engaged the enemy, she managed to outmaneuver one of the Xorath's smaller vessels and take it down with a single precise shot. The victory was small, but it was enough to spark a fire within humanity. It was a sign that they could fight back. Samira's victory was broadcast around the world, and the footage of her daring dogfight inspired millions. Her name became a symbol of resistance across the planet. People began to rally together. The spirit of defiance spread like wildfire as humanity realized that they were not entirely powerless against the Xorath. The news of her success reached Jurgensen, who had been tirelessly working to decode the strange messages from the Etherians. As the battle raged on, she was still uncertain of their true intentions, but Samira's actions gave her hope. Humanity was beginning to find its strength again. Under General Hale's leadership, the Earth Defense Coalition began to reorganize its forces. The remaining military units came together in an attempt to build a defense strong enough to repel the Xorath, while at the same time preparing for whatever role the Etherians might play in the conflict. It was clear that Earth needed every advantage it could get, but trust in the Etherians was still fragile. Many felt they were being manipulated or used as pawns in a much larger game. With the Xorath continuing their relentless assault and the threat of Etherian betrayal looming, Jurgensen and her team redoubled their efforts to uncover the truth about the Etherians and their involvement in past galactic wars. They discovered that the Etherians had a hidden agenda. After all, their peace was not entirely genuine. They had been seeking to manipulate the outcomes of galactic conflicts to ensure their own power and survival. The knowledge they offered to Earth was not simply for the good of humanity, but for the benefit of their own political schemes. They had promised peace, but they had also made it clear that there would be consequences if Earth refused to participate in their galactic agenda. The realization hit Jurgensen hard, and she knew that humanity's fight for survival was about to take a dark turn. It was no longer just about defending Earth from the Xorath. It was about resisting the Etherians' control and fighting for Earth's independence. She shared her findings with General Hale, and together they devised a new strategy, one that would not only defend Earth from the Xorath, but also ensure humanity would not fall under the influence of the Etherians. The world's resistance had begun to form into something more than just a defense. It was a movement for freedom and self-determination. Humanity had found its spark of defiance, and now it was ready to fight for its future. The battle for Earth raged on. The Xorath fleet had established a brutal dominance over the skies. Their weaponry was overwhelming, and humanity's defenses were being pushed to the limit. But Samira Ruiz's victory had sparked something in the hearts of Earth's people. Humanity had started to fight back. The Earth Defense Coalition, under General Hale's leadership, coordinated a series of counterattacks. These were desperate moves, but they were effective. The Xorath underestimated the resilience of humanity, and it was clear that Earth's fighters would not go down without a fight. Samira's squadron had become the tip of the spear in the resistance. She had risen to the rank of commander and was leading a ragtag team of pilots from all corners of the world together. They engaged the Xorath with an unmatched ferocity. They learned quickly to adapt to the Xorath's tactics and used their own ingenuity to turn the tide of battle. One by one, Earth's starfighters took down Xorath warships in daring dogfights. It was a small victory here and there, but with each success, the resistance grew stronger. The Xorath had underestimated the sheer determination of humanity. On the ground, humanity also made a stand. General Hale led military forces against the Xorath's ground invasions. Their massive war machines tore through cities, but Earth's soldiers used guerrilla tactics to slow the Xorath's advance. They planted bombs in strategic locations. They sabotaged the Xorath's supply lines. They were not ready to give up without a fight. The battle was becoming a war of attrition, but humanity was holding its ground. Meanwhile, Turgensen had made another breakthrough in her investigation into the Etherians. The more she learned about their history, the more she realized just how deep their involvement in galactic conflicts went. The Etherians were not innocent peacekeepers. They had played both sides in many wars across the galaxy, often manipulating the outcome to ensure their own survival and dominance. They had come to Earth, not as saviors, but as opportunists. Their so-called peace was a ruse. They had come to test Earth's readiness for a larger galactic agenda, one that did not include independence for humanity. They wanted Earth to be a part of their scheme, and they would stop at nothing to make sure it happened. As Turgensen uncovered more about the Etherians' true nature, she shared her findings with General Hale. The revelations were shocking and terrifying. Humanity had been duped, but now they knew what they were truly up against. It was no longer just about fighting the Xorath. It was about fighting for Earth's autonomy and freedom against two alien forces that wanted to control it. Humanity's survival was no longer in the hands of the Etherians. They had to take matters into their own hands. The turning point came when Samira and her squadron launched a daring mission to take down one of the Xorath's massive battle stations, stationed just outside Earth's orbit. The station was a key asset for the Xorath, and its destruction would give Earth's forces a chance to turn the tide in their favor. Samira knew the mission was a suicide run, but she and her team were willing to make the sacrifice. In a heart-pounding assault that saw many pilots fall, Samira and her remaining crew succeeded in breaching the station's defenses and planting the explosive charges that would destroy it in a fiery explosion. As the station fell apart, the resistance cheered. Humanity had scored its first decisive victory, but the cost was high. Samira had lost many friends in the battle, and her squadron had been severely diminished. The bloodshed was far from over, but for the first time humanity had hoped the Xorath were not invincible, and Earth had proven it had the strength to stand against the odds. The war had just begun, and humanity had no intention of backing down. With the destruction of the Xorath battle station, humanity's forces found renewed strength and determination. The war was far from over, but the victory gave hope that Earth could survive and perhaps even prevail. The Xorath retaliated with greater ferocity, launching waves of new attacks, but humanity's resistance was growing stronger. Samira, Ruiz's name had become a rallying cry across the planet. Her squadron's success had inspired many to join the fight, and Earth's military forces began to adapt their tactics to take advantage of the weaknesses they had discovered in the Xorath fleet. But despite the mounting victories, humanity could not shake the feeling that there was still a much larger threat lurking in the background. Turgensen continued her investigation into the Etherians. She had uncovered disturbing truths about their past, their manipulation of galactic conflicts, and their hidden agendas. But she also discovered something even more unsettling. The Xorath were not the true enemy. They had been manipulated themselves by a much darker force, a force that had been using both the Etherians and the Xorath as pawns in a galactic game of chess. This force was known as the Ver. The Ver were a race of ancient and malevolent beings that had once ruled over vast stretches of the galaxy before they were defeated and driven into the shadows. Their return had been heralded by the chaos that had consumed the galaxy. The Ver sought to enslave or destroy any civilization that stood in their way, and the Xorath and the Etherians were simply tools to achieve that goal. As Jurgensen uncovered the truth about the Ver, she realized that humanity was caught in the crossfire of an ancient war that had been brewing for eons. The Ver had manipulated both the Xorath and the Etherians to weaken and destabilize civilizations like Earth so that they could eventually conquer them. She knew that humanity had to act quickly or face the same fate as countless civilizations before them, the Xorath and the Etherians were pawns in a game that they didn't fully understand, and now Earth was being forced to play that same game with the stakes higher than ever. General Hale was not blind to the shifting tides of the war, and when Jurgensen presented her findings, he immediately understood the gravity of the situation. The Earth Defense Coalition had fought valiantly against the Xorath, but now it was clear that their true enemy was the Ver, an ancient force far more dangerous than anything humanity had faced before the Xorath, and the Etherians might be defeated, but the Ver would stop at nothing to ensure that Earth fell under their control. With this new knowledge, the Earth Defense Coalition began to shift its focus. They could no longer simply fight the Xorath. They had to prepare for the Ver, and their dark power General Hale ordered the construction of new weapons designed specifically to counter the Ver's influence, while Jurgensen continued to work with the Etherians to find a way to expose the Ver's plans and weaken their hold over the galaxy. It was clear that humanity's fight for survival had entered a new chapter. The enemy had changed, but the stakes remained the same. Earth's future was on the line, and they would have to fight harder than ever to secure it. As the Xorath began to lose ground to humanity's resistance, they retreated into the depths of space. But the shadow of the Ver loomed larger than ever. The galaxy was about to be engulfed in a war that would determine the fate of every civilization in it, and Earth's role in that war would be more crucial than ever. As Earth's forces regrouped after their victory over the Xorath, a sense of urgency swept across the planet. Humanity had learned the hard truth. The true enemy was not just the Xorath or the Etherians, but a dark and ancient force known as the Ver, a race that thrived on chaos and destruction. The galaxy was their playground, and civilizations like Earth were nothing but obstacles in their path. The war that had begun as a fight for survival against the Xorath was now something far greater. It was a battle for the very existence of humanity itself. General Hale worked tirelessly to prepare Earth's defenses for the Ver's inevitable advance. The Coalition's forces had been bolstered by newly formed alliances between nations, and the resistance was stronger than ever. Samira Ruiz and her squadron had become legends, and their victories over the Xorath were celebrated across the globe. But the truth was that Earth was still far from ready for the scale of war that the Ver would bring. Jurgensen had become humanity's key to understanding the Ver, their ancient influence, and the dark powers they wielded. As she continued to work with the Etherians, she uncovered more chilling revelations. The Ver were not just conquerors, they were manipulators who thrived on the suffering and destruction of entire civilizations. They fed off the chaos they created, and they had the power to corrupt and control the minds of weaker races. She learned that the Ver had been secretly guiding the Etherians and Xorath in their efforts to destabilize the galaxy, ensuring that when the time came, Earth would be left vulnerable and unprepared for their true assault. The more Jurgensen discovered, the more she realized how little humanity knew about the scope of the Ver's reach. They had been hiding in the shadows for eons, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And that moment was now. With the Xorath beaten back and the Etherians circling, humanity was the last major obstacle standing between the Ver and total galactic domination. Jurgensen's heart sank as she realized that humanity was facing not just an external threat, but an enemy that had already infiltrated the very fabric of the galaxy itself. The Etherians were not all bad, but they had been manipulated by the Ver. They had been part of a larger plan to bring about the destruction of civilizations that refused to bow down to the Ver's rule. The peaceful race that had offered humanity its technology had its own hidden motives, and Jurgensen knew that there was no time to waste in uncovering their true goals. Humanity's best hope for survival lay not just in fighting the Xorath, but in preparing for the coming of the Ver. With this new understanding of the threat, humanity shifted its tactics from purely defense to preparing for an all-out war with the Ver. Earth's leaders held secret meetings to form a unified strategy to combat the dark power of the Ver. They could not fight this war alone. They would need to build alliances with other civilizations that had survived the Ver's previous conquests, and learn from their experiences. They would need to create a weapon powerful enough to counter the Ver's corruptive influence and destroy the ancient darkness that had once ruled the galaxy. As the storm of war began to take shape, it was clear that humanity was no longer just defending itself from one enemy. It was preparing for a battle on a galactic scale, a fight for survival against a force that had existed long before humanity had even learned to look up at the stars. The galaxy was changing, and the choices made in the coming days would decide if Earth and its people would rise or fall before the gathering storm. The Ver were coming, and humanity's future hung in the balance. The galaxy had never seen a threat like this. The forces of destruction and chaos were marching toward Earth with the goal of wiping out everything that stood in their path. The Etherians and Sorath were only small pieces in the Ver's grand design. Now it was clear that the final battle for Earth's survival was approaching, and the planet had to make a choice to stand united or face obliteration. General Hale's command center buzzed with activity. The resistance had come a long way since the first wave of Sorath attacks. Now humanity had allies from across the stars, and the knowledge they had gained from the Etherians and other races was starting to make a difference. The Earth Defense Coalition had developed new weapons designed to fight the Ver's mind control technology and their corruptive influence. Humanity's engineers and scientists had worked tirelessly to create a weapon capable of breaking the Ver's dark hold on other civilizations. Samira Ruiz stood at the forefront of the coming battle. She had led humanity's forces to countless victories against the Sorath, but now the stakes were higher than ever. Her squadron was ready for the ultimate mission to strike at the heart of the Ver's power. The galaxy was about to be engulfed in a war like no other, and Samira knew that every decision they made in the coming hours would determine the future of humanity. As the Ver's fleet loomed on the horizon, Jensen was deep in her work. The Etherians had shared their knowledge of the Ver's weaknesses, but it came with a cost. Humanity could no longer afford to trust the Etherians fully, even though their technology had given humanity a fighting chance. The truth about their involvement in the Ver's schemes had left a bitter taste in the mouths of Earth's leaders. The final battle could not depend on anyone but humanity itself. Jensen's team worked feverishly to refine the weapons that would be humanity's last line of defense. When the first wave of the Ver's fleet arrived, Earth was ready. The sky above the planet darkened as the Ver's ships filled the heavens like a storm of darkness. Humanity's forces gathered in the stars above the Earth, prepared for the most brutal fight of their lives. Samira and her squadron took to the skies once again, this time not just as pilots, but as warriors defending everything they held dear. The battle began with the full fury of the Ver's destructive power unleashed, but humanity's forces held their ground. The new weapons developed by Earth's engineers turned the tide of the battle. The Ver's mind control devices were disabled, and their ships were rendered vulnerable to attack. Humanity fought back with all its might and every ounce of defiance that had been building within them since the first Sorath strike. Samira led the charge in her starfighter. Her squadron moved with precision, taking down the Ver's vessels one by one, while Earth's ground forces pushed back the Ver's land invasions. As the battle raged across space and on the ground, Jensen and the Etherians had one final task to perform. They located the Ver's central command and launched a covert strike on their most dangerous weapon. It was a last-ditch effort to cripple the enemy before they could retaliate, and as the weapon was destroyed in a brilliant explosion, the tide of the war shifted. Humanity had taken the first steps towards securing its place among the stars. The Ver were defeated not through sheer force alone, but through humanity's resolve and unity. The final blow was delivered by Earth itself, a victory not just for the planet, but for every race in the galaxy that had been oppressed by the Ver's dark influence. And as the dust settled, and the remnants of the Ver fleet drifted into space, humanity stood victorious. A new age had begun. Earth had proven its place in the galaxy not through the help of others, but by its own strength and determination. A new era of peace and cooperation could finally begin, and humanity's journey from shadows to starlight was complete.